I think within the sort of public, court of opinion, I reckon there's at least 50% who wouldn't consider it art in any way, shape, or form, because you're taught that art is painting of flowers or a bloke sitting on a horse. That's what it is. And if you talk about improvisation, that's literally someone doing a painting in front of you, but with words, which is again just as valuable, I think.
Yeah, what's the difference between improv and a Jackson Pollock? You know what I mean? Like Jackson Pollock never premeditatively went into an art saying, this is the finished product in my head. Improv is the same thing.
It's showtime, folks.
Hey everybody, welcome to Into the Music. We're back again with another episode. We're your hosts for the day, for the episode. I'm Andy, that's John over there. John, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm excellent, thank you for asking. Yourself?
I'm hanging in there, man. It's been a good day thus far, so let's hope it maintains thusly. I've got a tune for you today. It's a little bit of a curveball or a genre that I think it's been touched on the channel a couple times, but not a lot. And it's because it's kind of this weird Venn diagram situation where it's both comedy and music. I think Greg and Chris had done a piece of this guy's work in the past on the channel, though I'm not even sure if the performance played. It may have just been a discussion at that point. And then we've also done, this was Greg and I did John Cooper Clarke, this guy kind of reminds me of a younger version of, he's not any one thing, right? There's comedy, there's music, there's pointed social commentary. There's this hint of a poet's mind injected into it. But the artist that I'm talking about today, the comedian that I'm talking about today, the social observer that I'm talking about today is a guy named Bo Burnham from here in the States. And the song that I want you to listen to is about 10 years old. It's from a discussion panel performance that he did on a show called The Green Room, I believe. And it's usually a panel of comedians discussing a myriad of issues. In this case, it's sort of a highlight of Bo's talent and his capability as a musician and social commentator. So give it a listen, circle back. The song is called Art is Dead.
Okay. I shall go check it out.
Okay, cool.
But here's where it gets difficult to explain or understand, is that Bo actually, when he performs, there's a lot of ironic detachment there. There's a lot of, you're not really revealing anything of yourself.
I never talk about what I really think about on stage directly, because I don't value what I think at this point about those issues. Well, just really, I don't think anyone wants to get up and hear a 20-year-old tell them what they think about how the world works.
Would you do me a favor?
So I just kind of make jokes.
Would you do me a favor? Would you do Art is Dead? Yeah. Because I think that song says everything that I think I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'll do that one. Yeah, sure.
Oh, he's a prop comic.
Art is dead, art is dead, art is dead, art is dead. Entertainers like to seem complicated, but we're not complicated. I can explain it pretty easily. Have you ever been to a birthday party for children? One of the children won't stop screaming, cause he's just a little attention attractor. When he grows up to be a comic or actor, he'll be rewarded for never maturing, for never understanding or learning. Every day can't be about him, there's other people, you selfish asshole. must be psychotic, they must be demented to think that I'm worthy of all this attention, of all of this money you worked really hard for. I slept in late while you worked at the drugstore. My drug's attention, I am an addict, but I get paid to indulge in my habit. It's all an illusion. I'm wearing makeup, I'm wearing makeup, Art is dead, so people think you're funny. How do we get those people's money? Said art is dead. We're rolling in dough while Carlin rolls in his grave. The show has got a budget. The show has got a budget. All the poor people, way more deserving of the money, won't budget because we wanted our name in lights. When we could have fed a family of 4 for 40 fucking fortnights. 40 fucking fortnights. I'm an artist, please God forgive me. I am an artist, please don't revere me. I am an artist, please don't respect me. I am an artist, feel free to correct me. Self-centered artist, self-obsessed artist. I am an artist, I am an artist, but I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid, I'm just a kid. Maybe I'll grow out of it.
Thank you, man. I think that's kind of interesting from a comic his age.
I thought it was cute.
Well, that really was all about content, the lyrics, the delivery. Quite a bit to talk about with Andy, and I'm sure he'll have a fair amount to say. Let's get into it.
Hey, and you're back. So a lot of stuff that probably caught your eye with this, your attention with this, the whole live aspect of it, the panel, some of the other faces you may have recognized or may not have recognized. Here's hoping this doesn't get blocked for copyright. But if we've made it this far, it hasn't. What did you think? What was your impression of this?
Yeah, I think overall I was slightly conflicted is not the word, but undecided. I don't know. It was really interesting, and it made me think a lot of things. So first off, I bloody love Gary Shandling, and I love Mark Maron as well. The other guys I didn't particularly recognise. I didn't, at the time. But anyway, just let me get that out there. So this, the song. I'd say the song was okay. It was, it was good. It was catchy. He clearly knows what he's doing. I wouldn't say as a song, like musically, it stands out or is totally memorable. What it is all about. It's about the lyrics, content, and the delivery. And it was interesting at the start. There's a lot of things made me sort of chuckle to myself. So he starts, and they're obviously mid-discussion. But he says something about there's a lot of ironic detachment, and there certainly was. And then he goes on to say nobody wants to hear a 20-year-old telling them how the world works. And then he goes and does exactly that, So this is this detachment.
It's something that's anecdotally funny about that is that he also has a song called "This How the World Works." So it's almost like he's calling out what he's going to write in the future as one of the song titles. So that kind of made me chuckle too. But anyway, I'm sorry.
So I had a sort of not suspicion, but I was thinking, do not take this on face value, because there'll be, I'd imagine there'll be fanboys and stuff that are saying, "Oh, he's really bleeding out his soul here" and whatever. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. But he goes into it, and the start, and I've got bits. I did manage to get bits of the lyrics, not a lot of them, but some of them. And so bits that caught my eye. And I think it's what he says in the discussion that's interesting. So he obviously talks about the attention grabbing and the start, and he made a decent point, which I think I've made before in discussion with other people. It's like it's one of the only sort of, well, he calls it an addiction. It's the only one that's encouraged and even rewarded, And there's another guy that I follow who talks about the "look at me" gene, which some people are born with, And of course, while he's doing this, he's sitting in front of a load of people playing piano and singing. So, there's that. straight away. And there's an interesting thing he says a bit further on. He says, it's an illusion. I'm wearing makeup. And at that point, he's like slapping the piano as well. It's
Almost
very funny.
like a tantrum, right?
Yeah. And he's a little bit wound up at that point as well, which is funny. But I mean, he's literally hammering home the point that this is made up. You know, I don't know if people take what he's singing as absolutely at face value, because there is truth to it, but I wouldn't say he particularly feels like that all the time, or that really is his take on things. It's another point of view or persona I think he's adopting. That's my view, I think. He mentions as well something about Carlin rolling in Luke's grave or something. And I presume that's George Carlin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know of George Carlin, but not very well. It just made me think that, you know, in this country, he's not really hardly known.
Wow.
I mean, really. Yeah. I mean, if you'd said Lenny Bruce, then yeah, people would know who that is. But George Carlin, no. Just hasn't translated across here in any way, shape, or form. If you did a top 100 stand-up comedians in the UK, he wouldn't make that list.
That's a crime. I'm sorry, Carlin is God. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was interesting, you know, and I've seen bits and pieces of it. Not a lot, I have to say. Then he went into the next little bit. I was just trying to think about monetizing art, as it were. And he's gone about his show as a budget, and what did he say about, you know, being able to feed a family of four for, you know, 40 fortnights or something like that. I think it was a nice alliteration in there. And I mean, on the face of it, there's no real direct correlation between a show's budget and someone going hungry outside, but it's all part of this art is dead, you know, the monetization of art, as it were, commercialization, you know, which sort of gets that in that ballpark. So it was really interesting. And then, I mean, I found it just really funny how he kept saying, I'm an artist. And I mean, it's just, I found it really funny. You know, there's someone self-proclaiming that, you know, and then it's the old bits, and then he sort of slips it again and says, but I'm just a kid, you know. Yeah. But you just spent the last 2.5 minutes telling us, Eric, you know, so, you know, it's quite clever and funny. But it's almost like that. I mean, that bit for me almost is like that double bluff where people go, oh, I'm so terrible, I'm really rubbish. Just wait for people to say, no, you're not. No, you're not. Yeah. There's a bit touch of that in there. I like the way he got progressively angrier. There was also a bit in it where, sorry, at the start, I forgot about this, where I can't remember the lines, but he's talking about attention, and it says this, there's other people, or it's not just about you assholes. And he looks at all the comments when he says that. Yes. That's really funny.
Yeah, and most people, I believe, picked up on it because you saw their reaction. They sort of like laughed in real time.
Yeah.
Although I loved Marin. Marin, I love to watch during this performance because Marin is going through everything. You see it in his face. There's parts where he's really contemplative. There's parts where he chuckles. There's parts where he even maybe is a little viscerally reacting to some of the attacks being levied on those who do what he does for a living. So I just love watching his face during the performance, but I'm sorry.
He's a funny guy as well.
Oh, very funny guy.
Yeah. I loved his little remark at the end, you know, that was cute, you know, that was hilarious. So yeah, it was really interesting. And overall, I think the debate, I mean, the actual title, Art is Dead, well, then you've got to define what art is, etc. Yeah. And, you know, some people have got a very sort of narrow view that they will put it down to a particular media or, you know, art is painting, drawing, film, music, dance, you know. And I always thought art is communication, you know, and it's somebody's vision that they're then putting out there. And I don't think art is dead, but I do think that lots of it has been monetized and commercialized. And then now there's quite a huge perception of the value of art, which has got nothing to do with the worth. And so you see all these headline stories about Van Gogh paintings going for 120 million or Picasso or whatever. And it's got nothing to do with its value or its worth, artistically, at all. It's just supply and demand within a market. Someone says, I'm prepared to pay that much for it, and they're able to. I mean, if Guernica went for a fiver, it still wouldn't make it any less of an awesome painting. So yeah, and then I have a slight bent towards the fine arts because I went to art college. Terrible painter, really average drawer, but I had really good ideas, and that was my sort of strong point in it. But if you, would you say that stand-up comedy is art? And that's a debate whether you would or you wouldn't, and there's some people who would, and there's quite a lot of people who say that it isn't an art. But then what's the difference between someone's stand-up routine and a soliloquy?
Yeah,
there's not really much difference.
It's literature, it's performance literature. Like you wrote that, you invested thought and time, and there is really thoughtful mechanisms that go into creating a successful joke. So to me, like when you said, is it, like my eyes lit up, like damn right it is. Like it's some of the best art. I mean, Shakespeare wrote comedy. And there's no greater artist when it comes to the written word, perhaps. So it's like, how could you not? Is that's for me the question, not whether it is or it isn't, but how could anyone not designate it as not only an art, but one of the most precious forms of it in our society? That's me on a soapbox.
Yeah, no, and I tend to agree with you, but I think within the sort of public, court of opinion, I reckon there's at least 50% who wouldn't consider it art in any way, shape, or form, because you're taught that art is painting of flowers or a bloke sitting on a horse. That's what it is. And if you talk about improvisation, that's literally someone doing a painting in front of you, but with words, which is again just as valuable, I think.
Yeah, what's the difference between improv and a Jackson Pollock? You know what I mean? Like Jackson Pollock never premeditatively went into an art saying this is the finished product in my head. Improv is the same thing. Anyway, go on, John.
But I mean, obviously, I went to art college. My best mate was an artist for many years. He's now an art teacher. I've been to 1001 art shows and galleries, etc. in my time. So, I've sort of spent time amongst people who are daily involved in this sort of artistic scene. And then if you talk to somebody else, they do not get Damien Hirst or Tracy Emin, Unmade Bed. What the hell's that? I could have done that. And, you're going to go into this debate, and sometimes it's not even worth the debate, So yeah, it's interesting, really interesting about the things that he throws up. And that point of view, that they're all selfish, etc. I mean, yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure that dedicated sportsmen are incredibly selfish, and writers as well. There is that weird, and everybody believes what they do, especially within arts circles, is hugely difficult and important. There's that Hemingway quote, this is writing's easy. You just lean over a typewriter and bleed, I mean, that's how somebody else said, well, it can't be hard to knock out a couple hundred words a day, he doesn't even use a lot of adjectives, so it can be even easier for Hemingway, So yeah, it throws up some really interesting ideas. And I take it when he said a 20-year-old kid, he was 20 years old when he performed.
Yeah, exactly.
So it shows a level of intelligence for such a young guy as well. He's clearly intelligent and precocious, which probably pissed off the older comedians as well.
I think that's why they were so happy to take the piss out of him. You know what I mean? is a little bit of that coming through, sort of that,
Of course.
comeuppance, if you will. So the other gentleman, we had Gary Shandling, like you noted. The host was Paul Provanzo, who is like I don't know if you've ever heard of the documentary The Aristocrats, but The Aristocrats is this very famous old joke that everyone can kind of put their spin on it. He produced that, got a lot of comedians
I
involved.
recognized him. I didn't know who
Yes.
he was, but I recognized his face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Judd Apatow, who's like a comedic writer and
Oh,
producer,
yeah,
who's done a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of films. Mark Maron, as you noted, and Ray Romano from Everyone Loves Raymond. And
Oh, it's Ray, was it?
Yeah. Ray was the one that said, "Oh, so he's a prop comic," when he got up to go to the piano. And another example.
Actually, now you say it, I see it. Yeah.
So, and I don't want to go over all the lyrics or whatever. He sings it pretty clearly, but some of a spot that I really love is this sort of the latter half of one of the verses where he's says, "I must be psychotic, I must be demented to think that I'm worthy of all this attention, of all of this money you worked really hard for. I slept in late while you worked at the drugstore. My drug's attention. I am an addict, but I get paid to indulge in my habit. It's all an illusion. I'm wearing makeup. I'm wearing makeup. Makeup. So I love that. Oh my God. It just rolls off the tongue. It's so pointed. I slept in late while you worked at the drugstore. My drug's attention, like a callback to the drug from the word in the previous line. I'm an addict, but I get paid to indulge in my habit. Like, oh God, that's so good. He kind of really takes himself apart in this, but you're wondering how much of he means and how much of it doesn't, because the whole first half is breaking down how these people are born and how this mentality is born of being a spoiled child. And then he puts a bow on it by saying, I'm just a kid. And it's like, that takes you back to the beginning, right? It's cyclical. You're going back to being that kid that never goddamn learned. So a synopsis of the song. This piece is Bo's reflection on the state of art in the modern world and how the commercialization of art and the profit-driven industries have hijacked and monopolized creative expression. The song is about the idea that the need for attention is a vice and an addiction that is, unlike other vices and addictions, not only tolerated, but encouraged in the modern world. The song ends with the narrator telling the audience not to worship or revere him because he's just a person, not worthy of their praise. On the CD recording, Bo introduces the song with the quip, "This song is honestly not funny at all, but it helps me sleep at night." This is a reflection of Burnham's guilt towards his own career. By writing this song, he relieves the guilt that indulging in creative industry causes. Burnham writes this with the hopes that by performing to the audience of the true nature of that Burnham writes this in the hopes that by informing the audience of the true nature of his show and the industry it belongs to, he will be less guilty of the moral crime he is accusing himself of committing. So a lot of grappling with oneself and identity and purpose and all that stuff.
I think that's I think most performers, whatever their, the section of art, admit that they take on a persona, particularly when they're performing. And I think this is a persona of sorts, that's hypercritical and self-reflective.
Yeah, I think the persona is like almost like a part of him. Like a part of him feels this way. Another part of it probably argues with this part. So he's just letting you, which is a theme throughout a lot of his stuff, is this grappling with his mind and his identity.
Yeah, and the sort of monetization of art. I mean, for the most part, it's dog shit. You just wonder, where will the next sort of sunflowers or Guernica or stuff like that, these paintings that were done 100, 200, 500 years ago, Van Eyck's, etc., and Monet's, will there be paintings from this time revered like they are in 100 years, or will we just be harking back to, the Night Watch or whatever, but then there's certain industries where I think it's really helped. I mean, I truly believe we're in a golden age of television, and although money has driven it to an extent in terms of the budgeting now, there's some amazing television which you can consider art, is artistic and not just, Love Island or whatever. So I mean, I think it's next weekend they're kicking off the TV adaptation of The Sandman by Neil Gaiman, and I've seen the trailers and like, wow. And they couldn't have done this 20 years ago because they didn't have the technology, and some of the CGI in the trailer is amazing. So there's stuff like that you gotta. But I would say cinema in general is in a bit of a downward spiral. I wonder if the talent of Paul has shifted across the television.
So all the streaming platforms and things like that, where they get all they get the budget, but they also get the time to do it. Seasons of hour-long episodes versus try to jam this shit into a 2-hour movie, which is even in today's society asking too much of people to sit for 2 straight hours. They like the idea of appointment viewing, you know.
But how I mean, it's this double thing. It's too long, whatever, and yet they'll watch a fucking box set for 8 hours in a row. You know, so people it's the idea of it rather than the action of doing it. It's funny. But yeah, it's all remakes and sequels, you know, and sad to see. Golden Age cinema for me is 70s, you know, it's the best of the films. But so yeah, you've got this, you know, but I suppose in a way it's a bit Darwinian, isn't it? Survival of the fittest, but I don't know. It's really, I mean, it's that Thatcherite thing that they didn't value any of the arts in the 80s, the Tories, because they couldn't make money out of it. Yeah. So, you know, they were pissed off they had to subsidize the theatre. You know, especially when they're full of lefties saying how bad the government was. You know? So there's stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting debate. It brings up lots of really interesting ideas. And I'm impressed for a kid of 20, because I'd have just done the song at 20 about why won't she sleep with me, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And he came to fame on YouTube when he was a teenager and garnered enough attention that there was kind of this groundswell behind him with all the views that his stuff was getting. That it evolved into, you know, putting out albums and doing live performances and tours and getting the attention of a lot of other famous comedians and actors. So hats off to him. I'd like to maybe in the future throw 1 or 2 more at you if you have any interest in it. If not, no biggie. But he is an interesting dude who has a lot of interesting things to say. So I thought I'd bring him to the channel under the guise of music. So
it certainly made me think.
Cool. Well, go ahead and put a bow on it, John, if you'd like, sir.
Great. Well, thank you, Andy, for this and for hurting my brain. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm sure somebody have got some points of view they'd like to express about this and what this song comes up. So whack them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Please don't forget to like if you do like this. There must be loads of Bo Burnham fans out there. If you're not subscribed, please do already. And don't forget to call your mother. Apart from that, we'll see everybody on the next episode of Into the Music.
See you guys.